Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lord Up here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on this your Wednesday morning rise and shine. And this morning here, I'm looking at a topic: modernity does not replace basic sanitation. Modernity does not replace basic sanitation. So, welcome again, top of the morning to you. Hopefully, a blessed night rest. So you're ready to take on the challenges and grab some opportunities that come your way this day. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for your word, for the blessings, dear Lord, of knowing thee, and for teaching us, dear Lord, how best to take care of our bodies and to deal with illnesses or diseases. May you bless us, dear Lord, as we continue to look into these things and apply them to our lives. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So this morning here, or today, I'm looking with you at looking at modernity does not replace basic sanitation, and so there is this continuous. There's this thought always in my mind as I observe just what's going on in society when it comes on to health and what's going on in the medical field. That there is this need to prevent something from happening without dealing with some basic principles. And the basic idea is that you can do wrong and you can not avoid or abstain. Sorry, so you can avoid abstaining or stopping from doing certain things and get results by taking a medication or taking some type of preventable natural remedy or something. But in this life here, we have cause and effect, and because of that cause and effect, there is sanitation, and sanitation is part of cause and effect. If you don't clean, then result of that clean is flies, is fungus or pathogens, and so forth. And so you clean, and this is more and more becoming optional, where people instead of will use soap and water, they use like an hand sanitizer. And they don't, with soap and water, as you know, which is the basic cleaning process, is it remove the debris from the hand. Is separated, it's suspended, and then let it make the debris or whatever the substance is on your hand is able to be washed off and removed from the hand. And that's the best way to remove anything that is a contaminant. But to treat a person, whether it be naturally or with drugs, without removing the contaminant, it becomes a recipe for disaster. And this is basically modernly what we're trying to do. We're trying to not cleanse. We're just trying to heal or trying to cure or trying to do whatever they're doing. I don't even know sometimes. So this is basically what I want to talk about here. So modernity does not replace basic sanitation. And you cannot remove the concept of sanitary condition, cleansing. So, as you know, the Bible is very clear, especially in Leviticus. We get this clear principle that's not a text, but it's a principle we get that cleanliness is next to godliness. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So, modernity does not remove cleanliness rules in the Bible, does not overtop it, does not prove them wrong, as I think some people foolishly believe and will pay a penalty for that. All it does, it gives some solutions and gives some insight as to how these microbes work. And so when we're talking about diseases, the principle for health is always going to be number one, cleanse, and then number two, nourish. So there is a thing where people are trying to overcome diseases, and they do neither. They neither cleanse, nor do they nourish the body, or give nourishment or nutrients that will heal or deal with the deficiency in the body, to heal the body. So without this, then what happened is that those two principles are ignored altogether. And what it is ignored, the concept is, oh no, just give the person some poison that will kill the disease or the virus or any pathogen, and never do some surgery, but never do these first two things. You cleanse and you nourish. And if there's a need for anything after, then you move to that. But it can't be the first option is to do something other than cleanse and nourish. Because as I said, disease is a process of something went wrong. And you first have to ascertain what's the cause. And then after you ascertain what's the cause, then you move forward to how you're going to cure the disease. So, any type of thing that's sore in my hand or any of my part of my body, anything that is a contaminant, a toxin, anything that's there, debris, dirt, the first order of business is to cleanse, is to wash it away by using soap and water. And after it's removed and the surface is clean, then if you want to sterilize with something, some type of solution, then that's a totally different story. But first you have to clean. And so it is in the natural, so it is in the spiritual. You first have to, you cleanse first and then you nourish. You first ask for forgiveness and you turn away from sin that's repentant. And that's the cleansing. And then you start to feed on the word that's nourished. So the principle is rock solid. And so when we're talking about disease, whatever the disease is, you're going to find some of the most scary diseases that are out there that you would approach them the same way. Some of the most scary toxins that are out there, you approach them the same way. You cleanse and nourish the body. You deal with them. In Numbers 19, verse 11 through 16, Numbers 19, verse 11 through 16, it says, He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. So first clause here, first principle here. Notice here the Bible is very clear when it comes on to dealing with even a dead body. When you know a dead person die, especially if they die of a communicable disease, a disease can be communicated from one person to the other. The body is highly contagious. The dead body, I should say. So most naturally, without refrigeration and other type of body bags and stuff like that, a person who touches that body, they now have to have a 7-day quarantine process because the body is so contagious. And we saw that a few years ago, I think in 2016 or so, when they had the Ebola outbreak, which is still going on. Actually, it's jumped. I should have said that in recent weeks, the Ebola outbreak spread to a new country in Africa. It's in Central African Republic and it's in some other spots. And they're having a problem containing it over there. But one of the ways to contain it is to quarantine and to deal very meticulously with the touching of the body. Because this is where the body is communicable, where the disease can be communicated. And we saw that a few years ago, how that was so important. So the principles here that we're reading, they're timeless principles, because until this world comes to an end, these principles are rock solid. But when the moment a person dies, the body is already contagious when the person is alive. If you're dealing with diseases, then you always notice that no matter what it is, you gotta quarantine, because this was especially important in the Ebola virus. They quarantine and they fed the person a whole lot of water, and by doing this they fix the problem. And see, they're still having a problem over there because the traditions and the way to deal with disease is not very well established, and because of that they have a problem not getting drugs to the person but getting cleanliness and hydration. So notice here, if you touch the body for 7 days, you're unclean. This is true for both spiritual and physical. Whenever you deal with something that is a contaminant, socially or verbally or whatever, something you saw, it takes about 7 days for it to wind clean out of your mind. Can't explain more there because I move on, but that's very a rock solid principle that is provable. Now in verse 19, chapter 19, verse 12, it says, He shall purify, at Numbers I should say, he shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself on the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean. And so there's always a process of purification and cleansing. And as you look at it, it's like, because the person is contaminated, and that's just a given. You just approach it like that. You touch dead body, whether it be whatever, and then the person dropped dead from whatever disease or no disease at all. And you don't know their contamination. And in our modern time, we'll have gloves and various different type of suits and stuff like that to protect ourselves. And that's important when you're dealing with anything, and you're cleaning. You can put on the gloves. You can protect yourself. These are principles just to keep your skin clean, because disease can get up on your skin. Verse 13 says, whosoever toucheth the dead body of any man that is dead, and purify not himself, and defile the tabernacle of the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean, and his uncleanness is yet upon him. So these principles were even affected to how you do worship and how you come into worship. And over the years, that has become fascinating to me, because I realize, because of the modern Christianity concept that the Old Testament was crucified on the cross with Jesus, they have lost view of these principles, and more because of modernity and medicine, people have lost view of the importance of cleansing and clean, and that you should not live in a pigsty and expect an antibiotic to fix your problem. But most people think that way. If you think about modern farming, what modern farming is, modern farming is basically where you can have a cow or a goat or a pig in a pigsty, in a filthiest condition that is unimaginable. I drive past some of these places that have cows, and the scent is unreal. It is just filthy. And then you eat that and say, well, it's good because it's antibiotic laced. This is what it is. So we have removed the concept of cleanliness, because we say we have some drugs. And so it is with animals, so is it with the people. The people think, okay, I can live in like a, my house can be a pigsty, and I can just take some medicine for that. And then people come down with some weird diseases, because cleanliness has gone out of the mind of the people. They believe modernity have replaced all these texts. We don't need these things, but we need them. And even though we have sanitary napkins, we have paper towels, we have gloves and other different type of things to wear to protect ourselves, plastic apron, disposable suits, it doesn't mean that the principles of cleanliness is not there, because those things kind of help with cleanliness. If you have somebody working in a factory with food, you don't just let them walk out to the street with their clothes on and start working on the food. You put on a apron, you put on the gloves, and no matter what contaminant is on their clothes, you help protect. But it would be good also if they come to work with clean clothes and they showered and all that. That would help also. You see, he still doesn't ignore the fact. You would go to a man on the side of the street and just bring him in the factory and say, well, he hasn't bathed for a month, but we put an apron on him, and we put the gloves, and we put an ear net. He can work with food. You would say, no, he still will contaminate the food. And then he probably will go to the bathroom and won't wash his hand. Then he use those same hands, put on the gloves, and now he contaminate the outside of the gloves, and then he take the same, feces laden gloves and touch the food. This is why you have these outbreaks. Gloves doesn't remove cleanliness. It's just one more step to make it more possible to remove contamination. I'm sure you've been places where somebody's handling food, right? They're handling the food and they have a gloves on. It's okay, great. And then they now need to collect the money for the food that they just serve you. And they use the same money gloves to hold the money. And then they go back to handle the food. And then you realize, well, that kind of defeat the purpose. The gloves now has on the outside all the fecal matter and the cocaine and the crack and everything that's on the money. You defeated the purpose. So that's basically the concept. Some people could think, oh, gloves remove these laws. It doesn't. It does not. Notice here, so the person have to have the water of sprinkling. And then verse 14, this is a law when a man died in a tent. All that come into the tent and all that is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. So he has to air out. And if you notice, most diseases, probably except for hepatitis, I think C, won't live on the surface for beyond this. Probably for all diseases. So in modern time, nothing has changed. This 7 day principle still is rock solid. When you look at, because people could talk all they want until, I remember a few years ago, as I say, when the Ebola outbreak happened, which is going on right now, and it seemed to be an uptick. When that happened, it had proved that when you approach the process of approaching that disease, the person had to be suited up from head to toe. And when they got under the suit, they had to be so careful of not to touch the outside and whoever helping them come out of the suit, that they can't touch the outside because the outside of the suit has a high risk of contamination, because any fluid that's on the suit, if you touch the fluid, it sends the disease inside of your body via the skin. So even coming out, so somebody say, "Oh no, this principle is not real." It's real. Even when you're in Tyvek suits and you're suited up with goggles and respirators and headgear and gloves and footgear, and you're taped up. When coming out of the suit, if you make a mistake, you could be dead or contaminated, and now you have to be treated. So when you look at these principles, cleanliness, modernity does not replace basic sanitation, because the aim is you're trying to avoid contact with disease, and you're trying to remove filth and don't contact with disease. So here, notice here, it was a 7 day principle, because after 7 days, the disease on the surface would have died out. So that means it would dry, and then the air drying process and any type of ultraviolet light and anything would kill surface level diseases. So 7 days was that principles. And as you know, the saying is, you have a flu, it's about 7 days normally to get out of your system. That's normally the case, about 7 days max. If it goes longer than 7 days, it's probably because your immune system is very weak or something like that. So notice here in verse 15, and everyone and every open vessel which had no cover bound upon it is unclean. So if it's not protected from the person that was diseased and that got sick and that died, you gotta know that the vessel itself is contaminated. You just assume it's contaminated. Today would be the same thing. If somebody have hepatitis and they drink out of a cup, you just assume that it's in the cup. And unless that cup has been sterilized and there, sit there for 7 days, sterilized or sit there for 7 days, it is unclean, because that disease will stay on the surface, even on the countertop for days. And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with a sword in an open field, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days. So the person need to go through a process where the system work through and clean. As I said, the principle is the same for like a flu. You have the flu, normally you get it the moment you start showing signs. It's about 7 days for it to clear out of your body. It's the same principle. Same thing, it's the same diseases. And it's fascinating that modernly you can easily substantiate this principle that it's about 7 days. And the system will go through a process, and the system will clean it. If the system can cleanse this disease out of the system, in other words. So like a flu, normally the immune system take about 7 days. When we're talking about something more powerful, it could take much longer. But the moment you understand this, you understand what you're doing, and you understand when it comes on to any type of thing you're dealing with, when it comes on to food, when it comes on to bedding, when it comes on to anything that cleaning, cleansing, removing surface contaminant, having some type of natural and even chemical cleansing agents is always important for your safety and for the safety of those who come around you. This is important. And so do not take in your mind that because there's an antibiotic, because there is some type of powerful chemical, that's enough. Because remember, even modernly, We've been showing that, and it's been reported over and over again, or I don't know if over and again, but enough that even bleach, our modern bleach, Clorox bleach or whatever bleach, I don't know if Clorox a brand, but that's how I know it has. But bleach is being shown to so that certain bacteria and pathogens and stuff are becoming immune to it, and they've mutated, and it's not killing them. So this is why I say, you know, you don't look at bleach as a cleanser. You look at it as something to sterilize. Soap and water to remove the debris, to clean, and then something like bleach is a sanitizer. You're using it after the fact. It is there. You can't like wash your clothes with bleach and water. You wash your clothes with soap and water. Anything like fabric softener, bleach, any type of agent like that, whether it be natural or chemical, it's after the fact. Too much reliance is put upon chemicals like that, and not enough upon just your basic principle that has been there for thousands of years. Soap and water, you basically separate the molecules or separate the substance from the surface that you're trying to clean, whether it be fabric or whether it be a hard surface or your skin. You suspend it and then use water to wash it away. Now, if you want to go sterilize after that with either something natural like thyme, thyme, you know that there's an extract that they use from thyme to be a powerful disinfectant, bleach, other things like that, Dettol, all this type of stuff. But those are secondary, they're not primarily. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 56 through 61, Deuteronomy 28, verse 56 through 61, it says here, the tender and delicate woman among you which would not adventure to set their sole of her foot upon the ground for delicacy and tenderness, her eye shall be even towards her husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter, and towards her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things secret in the siege and straitness wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. So before I keep reading here, so I want to say here that, often when I thought in the past about end times, I always was told that, in the end times, there's going to be a lot of diseases. And that in the second coming, things are going to be just bad. But what I was not told, I don't know if anybody had realized this, was that it's not because God just wants things to be bad, And that was something, like all people say, it's the end of time, the Bible predicts these things are going to happen. But the prediction in the Bible is not a statement of endorsement or that God is doing it. All it is just God foresee how things are going to work out. But what I didn't understand was the philosophy of the people living in our time is going to cause a situation to arise. And that is what nobody really didn't teach. It's a cause and effect. It's not God just want to make things happen for excitement, for excitement and for, a lot of crazy things going to happen. Because I was told, I remember people say, yeah, in the last days, there's going to be a lot of diseases. And the only work that will be done is medical missionary work. But without going into an understanding as to why. And the problem would have been, or is caused by bad principles. If you do certain things, there's going to be a cause and effect. And if you do, one action will equal another action or opposite or similar action. So there's going to be a cause. And the cause, I guess what I'm talking about now is this concept here where people use modernity to replace sanitary principles. And because of this, you will have an increase in diseases. And because now there's an increase in disease, we say, oh, this is the end of time. But it's so much the end of time, not because it's the end of time, it's the end of time because of the philosophy. Because if any time in history we should be living in a very clean environment. It should be now, because we have so much that we can use to keep our environment clean. We have not only, as I said, some powerful chemicals, but we have all different type of soaps. We have all different types of air cleaners. We have washing machine dryers. We have all different types, just so much different things to clean. And somebody was I went to I was in Denville a few weeks ago, and when we went there, me and my wife, we ran into, they're having like a street fair. So after we had done what we are doing, we say, let's go walk around and see what they're going on with. So we stopped at a place where this guy, one of the booths, and this guy was selling this air purifier. So I was interested in it, but the price was out over the top. It was like $2,000, I think, for the air purifiers. So one of the latest gadgets that's out there. So while he was saying that to us, he said, "Okay, if you buy it for $2,000," he said, I'll throw in this system that uses like a ozone. I can't remember. I think it was an ozone system or something along the line of ozone, so you to wash your clothes. And I say, really? So he said, yeah. And he said, this is, they do it already. They said this system costs probably like $400, something like that. And you don't have to use detergent. You don't have to use detergent anymore. You don't have to use soap. You don't have to use nothing. You just connect this, you line this in through your washing machine. I don't know if you're familiar with this thing, but you put it to your washing machine, the line from your faucet or your plumbing straight into the washing machine. The water runs through it, and the water is hit with this chemical reaction, and it will sanitize your clothes. I don't know how true or how false it is. It's still, I like the idea of suspending this stuff and then get rid of it, but he says it will work, so that's fascinating. So there's just so much stuff, and by the close I thought, and then I'm thinking, okay, so if you're selling me the thing for $2,000 and you're gonna give me something for $400, why not just selling me the filter? Still wouldn't buy it though, because it's still out of my price range, but why would you sell me the filter for 1,600 and don't give me that Fantangle that can sanitize my clothes? And then he wanted to throw in ozone machine, an air purifier that is an ozone machine. There used to be a hit about probably 10 years ago or more. And he said, I'll throw that in there. So then at that point, you could sell me the filter probably for 1,200. So then I said, what's the real value of the filter? Because you're showing me all these expensive things. Anyhow, so back to my presentation. But the point is, there's so much things out there to purify and sanitize things. But here we are in a time where people are coming down with some diseases that are linked to unsanitary conditions. And it's one thing if they're coming down with it in, say, Haiti or Congo, Central African republics, or various different places like that, where the darkness is great, and the lack of modernity and the lack of some of these principles are not there. But it's one thing when we're in modernity, surrounded by modernity, and people have ideas that they can basically live in a pigsty and take antibiotics, and not think about, oh, probably I should clean up my pigsty. That's where this discussion here is. So notice here, what the Bible is talking about. We're talking about the strait that will come upon you in Deuteronomy 26. Is normally we say is the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is always synonymous with siege, war, famine, pestilence. But these things, as I say, when I knew this was coming into the faith as an adult, I really didn't. I understood these things as more. Oh, the day of the Lord is not understanding that they're cause and effect. That war causes famine, and when people are famished, they get weak because they're not having enough nutrients, so they become susceptible to disease, and that susceptibility to disease cause them to have pestilence or diseases, incurable diseases that would be on a normal situation curable, because they'll be able to have fresh water, they'll be able to wash their clothes, they'll be able to eat, food that has nutrients. But without these things, people now get into that type of scenario because of the war. The war equals famine, famine equals pestilence. Never really, and then you start to get an idea that, oh, so within in the end time, you have all these things where people now will poison the waterway, poison the groundwater, and then drink the water and come down with some weird neurological disease from the toxic neurological chemicals that they pour into the water system, and then wonder what's going on with the children, why they're having so much neurological problems. You get the fact that people will overuse antibiotics because they're trying to use antibiotics as a crutch to overcome, say, a 7-day flu, while they want to eat and eat all the chocolate and the ice cream while having a flu. I know they're taking an antibiotic for something that probably would have cleared out of the system within 7 days anyhow. So now when they need an antibiotic because they're under severe disease, there is no solution because the body now become resistant, or the disease become resistant to antibiotics. This is what we're going. So we're creating more problems. There's this discussion about global warming or not global warming, but it's obvious that we're pumping all this pollutant, not just carbon dioxide and other monoxide and all this stuff that we pour into the atmosphere, but we're pumping all these various different chemicals that we're not really certain what many of these chemicals we're pumping in the air doing. And yet we do this, and then we see the change in the weather pattern, and we're wondering what's going on. We feed the animals all these weird foods. We genetically engineer the corn, genetically engineer the soybean, genetically engineer a whole bunch of stuff, feed the animals, and then the animals look weird, they look mangy, and then we eat the animals, then we look weird and mangy, and we wonder what's going on. But you see, this time of duress, more and more, when you look at it, you realize it's cause and effect. It is end times, but it's end times primarily, I would say, man created. And the rest of it, which is not the primarily part, I'm still trying to understand what's going on. But if you look at it, you see people on the side of the street, and you go places, there's like hundreds, thousands of people on the street living in tents, living in sleeping bags in various different cities. You say, man, this is like the end times. This is like we're in the zombie apocalypse. You can't live sanitary on the side of the street. So you have people like that. You're thinking, man, this look like something out of the movies. This look like the end times, what the Bible predict. But then you pull back and you say, wait a minute. You start to realize that most of the people on the side of the street have mental health problems. They have drug problem, alcohol problem. They were in situation like in the war, in various different wars. So you start to see that it's not just, oh, this is gonna happen because it's the end time. You start to see that there's cause and effect. Then you start to see people in that type of environment, they're not gonna be able to maintain health. Why? Because they can't keep sanitary. You living on the side of the street, getting a shower, having clean clothes, you're sleeping on the sidewalk. It's difficult. I was last year I visited San Diego with my wife, and everywhere you walk, you just have this scent of pee, of urine, uric acid, paste the street. Even when I walk my shoes, I feel like I would walk in on pee, urine. It's just urine everywhere. You never, until you see it and experience it, it's unreal. It's like there's the scent of urine everywhere you go. And you realize there's a lot of homeless people and a lot of dogs, and it almost never rains. So it doesn't rain, and it's one of the most beautiful places. It's just a very interesting place to go to. I understand why it's one of the top vacation destination in the world. But you go and you see so much dogs in a city. There's dogs everywhere, and there's homeless people everywhere. And I'm walking, and I constantly have the thought that I'm walking on dry uric acid from dogs and people. This is the constant thought because you constantly smell it. It's like it's just part of the atmosphere. And you're walking in this, but then you passing people and realizing they're laying in that dry pee or that dry urine. They're just laying there. And then you start to think, man, how long can you live like that with such unsanitary condition? Now you could hit that person with all kind of antibiotics and say, keep laying there, man. But you notice now, and there were times when I'll be near where we were staying, they would have like somebody almost on a daily basis with a power washer trying to power wash the sidewalk, so I guess wash off the urine. As I said, beautiful place. So, and I mean, I seriously mean that. It is, but it's just that fascinating idea that human beings live like that. And, but we're not cattle. We're not made. We don't have hide and hoof. We're not made that tough. God didn't make us tough. God make us very delicate. And so that clean is important because the body will start breaking down if it can't get a shower on a regular basis. You bathe yourself daily. You brush your teeth minimum twice a day. You keep your house in clean. You wash your sheets and your bedding at least once a week. You just clean. And they said we spend 1/3 of our lives in our bed. So hence it would be very important to wash your bedding as often as you can. Because it's a lot of your life you spend inside of your bed. And you go in your bed clean. So when I think about the end times now, I see it as I'm more investigated. Yeah, I could do this presentation as a current event because I'm more looking at it as to why this is happening. Who's doing? When you think about what happened in Flint, Michigan, with the water supply, and you think of the water supply get contaminated, somebody could say, "Well, this is the end times. Things are, the Bible says things were going to get bad." But you say, "Wait a minute, we poisoned the water. It's not God doing this." And I'm not saying there's a small percentage of stuff that God is doing, but I realize most of what's happening is man done, or God responding to the evils of man. That's another story. So here, the siege didn't happen because it happened for a reason. The people rebelled, and so things get out of control. And so there's a cause and effect, and important for you to notice, because as other things gonna keep happening, and people are dying of all kind of things like cancer. I was reading this morning about HPV vaccine, and there's a big fight looming on this HPV vaccine, because the idea now you're telling people, don't worry about HPV. We have a vaccine for you. Just go ahead and take care of your business. It's a philosophy that is in the system where people want to be able to do their dirt and just have something to make them become immune to the dirt. It doesn't work. The concept. Now, in verse 58 of Deuteronomy 28, it says, "If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God, then the Lord shall make thy plague wonderful, and the plague of thy seed even great plagues, and of long continuance, sore sickness, and of long continuance." So when we're talking about the plague, an example of this would be the bubonic plague. You see, when you think about the bubonic plague in the Dark Ages, you've heard about it. There's not much explanation. When you think about it, the bubonic plague was twofold. One thing happening, one event, but twofold. One, it was a response to the wickedness of the Catholic Church towards those who were Christians but didn't agree with it, and the wickedness of the church, period. It was a curse upon Europe for its evil. Number one, if you read the Bible. But number two is also was cause and effect. Because they have rejected the Old Testament and they chained the Bible to the monastery walls, they lost sight of the truth about cleanliness. And so the conditions that they were living in was very filthy. And in a cold country where people have to be indoors a lot, I think it made it worse. Because at least you could get outside and do things outside. So if you're in a warmer country, but in a cold country, you kind of tend to be huddled in cities and in so forth and so on. So now, if you look at this here, the plague was long. It was many years, and you find out more people died of the plague than died by persecution. And interesting enough, as they persecuted the saints fled primarily the city areas. So they fled the cities, but the plagues was in the city, which is very interesting development in the Lord. This is the other part that I say God does his thing, not just allow cause and effect. Because imagine, say you're in a city that's Amsterdam, so they run the Christians out of the city because they're trying to murder them for being followers of Christ. So the Catholic Church did that. So say the people left Amsterdam, I'm assuming. I don't know if Amsterdam was around. I'm assuming it was around then. So just the city that came to my mind. But anyhow, so they left there, fleeing persecution. But now what left back in the city is people who reject the Bible and reject anything to do with cleanliness. And so the Lord allowed the plague to come. And more died in the city there than would die from persecution. It's a fitly punishment for evildoers. So same it is now. Just imagine there's people who are proud of science. They say, "Oh, I believe in science over the Bible," and because the Bible is not scientific, and they proud in their silliness, and so they don't believe in these principles. And then there's others who are Christians who believe in the Bible, but they believe the Old Testament is nailed to the cross and that you don't have to follow these cleanliness principles because Jesus Christ died and his blood washes away our sins. But if you have fecal matter in your hand, that is blood of Jesus Christ is not going to cleanse you from that fecal matter. You need to get soap and water. And that's what it is. You ever go to a restaurant and they say the restaurant workers are required to wash their hands. And I'm thinking everybody that uses the toilet should be required to wash their hands. You're touching the doorknob, you're touching the toilet, you're touching but they won't touch the sink because they're not going to wash their hands. They touch their private part, they clean themselves, and they walk out and they go eat food. That don't make no sense. And so everybody should be required to wash their hands. But the workers most naturally, because they would contaminate a whole bunch of people through the course of a day. So notice there, it is as I say, what we're looking at as we move towards the end of time is a lot of cause and effect. This is not just God, just punishing human beings for punishing them sake. You see, this is how people make it look. Oh, this God is doing this. But no, it is. You see, these whales. At first when the whales were coming up, I think I'd figure out that this is the chemicals in the waters. The whales and the various different fishes, they're poisoned. But now they're popping the belly of some of these animals and find a whole bunch of plastic bottles in their stomach and stuff like that. And so, when in the past I'd read a text that talks about even the fishes of the sea will be taken away. But now we see that some of these things is our doing. We're killing them. And then we're bold enough to go poison them with mercury and other chemicals and then go eat them. Fascinating. So notice here, sore sickness. So we notice a lot of the diseases that are upon humanity right now are diseases where you suffer long. But they are cause and effect diseases that have to do with uncleanness. One of the uncleanness that we see going on right now is people who light up the dirty stick, what they call cigarette, or marijuana, and they inhale smoke. They burn the thing and inhale the smoke. As you know, smoke is a toxin on itself. No matter if you smoke, you could go there, light grass and inhale the smoke. It's going to basically give oxidants in your body and poison your body. That's what it does. And so this is uncleanness again. When you see you see the pictures of a lung, and then you see a not normal lung, and then you see a picture of a lung filled with tar. It's just the body's filled with gunk, and the system just become cancerous and it dies. This is what's happening. And so we talk about cleanliness principles. Modernity does not remove this. You gotta clean the system out. And so these diseases are long continuous where a person have some inflammatory disease, some autoimmune disease, some all kind of neurological disease and other type of, and it's just you have the disease for years until it kills you finally. Long continuance because of rebellion. You cannot rebel against the laws of God and be blessed. No matter what your doctor tell you that they have a medication for you. The first medication is water and soap. Verse 59 says, then the Lord will make thy plague wonderful. Verse 60. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wouldest was afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. So here the Lord says, everything that you saw the Egyptians suffered, you will suffer also. The diseases of Egypt, as we know now, some of the disease of Egypt has been proven. Egyptians had coronary artery problems. They have all kind of problems to do with the coronary artery. The Egyptians had things like cancer. They were very cancerous. Breast cancer and all different type of cancer. And so the Jews would see this and they would see the Egyptian diseases and they would be scared of them, which they are scared. If you look at the diseases now that we have, or modern day disease that scare us, are diseases that the Egyptians had. Egyptians lived a decadent lifestyle. How? Because the Egyptians oppressed the minority that was amongst them. Who was the minority amongst the Egyptians? It was the Hebrews. And the Hebrews did the hard work, and the Egyptians did the easy life, and the Egyptians have the easy life disease. If you think about modernly, this is the reality for today. The people who have the decadent lifestyle, they have the decadent diseases of all kind of weird, as I say, neurological diseases, all kind of weird developmental diseases, all kind of weird cancerous diseases. And so the Lord says, you afraid of these diseases? Say you disobey me and you will have the same diseases upon you. Why? Because ding ding ding. The diseases that was prime upon the Egyptians were diseases of rebellion. They rebelled, they were living the pagan lifestyle, and they have the pagan lifestyle disease. Remember, some of the disease upon the Egyptians were madness and astonishment of heart. They were they had mental health problems a lot. Why? You live a wicked lifestyle, you're gonna have mental health problem. You eat the crazy foods, you're gonna have mental health problem. Mental health problem is primarily again the no cleansing of the mind. You never experience forgiveness. You never repent of your wickedness. Your brain is gonna be messed up. And so the cleansing, as I said, the cleansing has to be both spiritual and physical. If you never purge, you never ask for forgiveness, you never forgive others, you mentally you're constipated, you're clogged up, and you're going to be diseased in your mind, you're going to be sick in your mind. If you never study the Bible, have clean water of the word running through your brain is filthy. And you need to get the filth and the smut out of your head and cleanse it. And so many people have gone through years of life and never having a cleansing. They never hear a preaching. They never listen to anything morally uplifted. It's always, music and movies and just garbage being stuck in that head. And they have their brain is like a garbage bin or a whole garbage truck of garbage in their brain. And without that, they never experience cleansing. You gotta have cleansing. You gotta have some clean running water running in your head to get rid of all the filth and the garbage that's in it. If it's not, then the person has a lot of flies and a lot of worms in their brain, and the brain is just a garbage brain. And their mouth speak the garbage that the brain think. They need some cleansing. They need a little word. Praise the Lord. Now in Proverbs 26 verse 2, also verse 61 of Deuteronomy 28, it says, also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of the law, this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. So we see this happening. And that's why I say, when I used to look at the end times, I say, what does that look like? And when you look at what's happening, every now and then there's a report of a disease that you never heard about. I never heard about. Nobody ever heard about. It's like they keep finding new diseases, and they're like weirder. And people literally dying or being paralyzed and all kind of stuff happening amongst us. And there's no explanation. And sometimes they say they think probably the disease is mental, sometimes they think it's physical, it's neurological, it's whatever it is. I'm telling you, the basic principle for dealing with disease is cleansing and nourishing. You cleanse the body first. You cleanse the mind. There's people who paralyzed literally because their brain they've been abused. All kind of bad things have happened and it's messed up their head. They need a purge. They need a cleansing. They need something to nourish them. Someone say, how are you going to nourish the brain? I'm telling you, what I'm doing right here is nourishment. They get none of this. People can live all their life and all they receive is the garbage from the TV and from books. And they just never hear a word. And somebody say, oh yeah, they went to church and it was a concert. Yeah, I'll probably give you a little cleansing, a little nourishment, little. I'm not going to say you're not going to get something from a praise and worship song, but it's just little. I don't know if it's enough. So notice here now, it will destroy you. And this is what we see. You go online, you look at some of the diseases in different part of the country and the world where, people, there's no God. They don't want to hear nothing about God. They believe that they evolve and all kind of craziness. And it's wonderful. Not in the text, not me saying it's wonderful, but there's a text I think I'm going to read later on, or probably not, that talking the Bible says your disease is going to be wonderful. When somebody say, I mean, it's going to be nice? No, it's going to be like it's amazing. Even the doctors will be amazed because they'll say, we've never seen this before. Now, in Proverbs 26, verse 2, as I call you looking at modernity does not replace basic sanitation. In Proverbs 26, verse 2, as a bird by wandering, as a swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. So things that just appear. And this is where we talk about, as we move towards the end at the time, that the curse upon the land is here and it's getting worse. But I just thought, it's the end times. In the end times, this is going to happen. But I realized, like when the Bible talks about in 2 Timothy 3, that men shall be lovers of their own self and they shall be, basically things are going to get perilous because of these various different factors. But I didn't understand, what I couldn't understand most naturally because we're not there, but now we're getting there, is we see all these mass murderers and we realize, if somebody from their birth until they reach, say, 20, all they consume is, movies and video games and, just evolutionary principles, which is one of the darkest principles in the world. And, they just consume all this hate and bile and guile and lies. It's 20 years of madness, and then they get a gun and they go into a place and start killing innocent people. And then somebody say, that's what's going to happen in the end time. But we never talked about, but what created that? That's being created, that curse that's upon the land is created because that head is it's a garbage head. See, that's what we need to talk about. See, but nobody talks about that. They just say, that's just the end time. Things are getting perilous. But why? Because the mind is filled with filth. And so it is, we would say, there's going to be other diseases. But why? Yes, there's this issue of genetical weakness. But why there's so much diseases? Because somebody can get up all day long and drink soda and never drink water. And then come down with some weird disease after 10 years of doing that the doctors say, we never seen this. But what the doctors should say, we never seen anybody could subsist of sodas and no water, no fruit juice. So this is a new one. Of course, we have created a new disease because this would never happen 100 years ago, because 100 years ago, I think, or whenever they invented soda, there was no such thing. So no medical book would ever have the result of a person getting up and drinking all the soda, no water. We have come to new points in our experience. And as you know, soda is very toxic, and it's a lot of chemicals and then a lot of sugar that will deplete the immune system and destroy it. So here we are. The curse does not come without a cause. But we spend so much time talking about, oh, it's just going to happen like that. Now we forget to talk about, no, there's a cause to it because we're going down roads that we've never seen. Remember, things like aspartame, NutraSweet in these sodas that are diet sodas, they are neurological chemicals. So we're going on a road that now you can have mommy and daddy drinking a whole bunch of diet sodas, consuming all this biological weaponry, which is what aspartame NutraSweet is. It is basically was made for chemical warfare. It was not made for human consumption. It was made to kill people in war, to destroy them neurologically. So mommy and daddy drink all this diet soda and then got pregnant, have the child. Now the child come around with some weird neurological disorder. The doctor's looking at it and thinking, this is baffling. We don't know where this neurological disaster, the disaster, I was going to say, but this neurological disorder came from. And I would say, yup, you're right. We never been down that road before. This is brand new. We never experimented what it is like to have somebody for probably 5, 10 years drink a neurological chemical agent that was made to kill people and drink it in a soda because it was legalized by the FDA for food as a sweetener. And now the child come out and the child is basically a mutant with all kind of weirdness in their neurological system. We don't know. This is brand new. And absolutely is brand new. And somebody said, this looks like the end time because that's what the Bible says is going to happen in the end time. But I'm putting forward here to you that, again, you can't fill the body with toxins and believe that there's not going to be a result. The curse causeless shall not come. And the moment you understand that principle, you start to say, the curse causeless shall not come. So you tell me this curse here is caused by something? Yeah. It's not just God punishing people. People get upset and believe that God is doing stuff like God already told us. You gotta watch that chemical. If you have that chemical in your system, you gotta purge yourself. You gotta take some nutrients. I was thinking about this yesterday. Now, how many people I know that will use marijuana? But the real problem here, and I have to talk more about this in the future because I'm realizing so many people have this problem. They have a deficiency in their brain. And they're using drugs, marijuana, crack cocaine, to fill that deficiency. And they try to get off the drugs. And the mistake they make is they get off the drugs and they didn't find a natural substance to try to fill the void in their head because something is wrong with their brain. There's a deficiency. And they would stop, whether it be through therapy or cold turkey, and it won't work. And it probably won't work because they don't understand you need to be on a herb. You need to be on some food. If you're not, you're going to relapse or you're going to have a deficient lifestyle because your brain is something wrong. It's just like if I tell you this before and I tell you again, I have a weakness in my skin. I always have skin problems and allergies in general because to me it's the same thing. So it don't matter what I do. I avoid the nasal spray. They have steroids in them. I avoid certain things. But it doesn't mean that I avoid everything altogether. I have to always be trying natural stuff. I experiment with so much natural things. Why? Because there's a deficiency. There's something my body does not deal with inflammation as the average person. So when I get a mosquito bite, I swell up. It just creates like a whelp on me when I get a mosquito bite. No, you get it doesn't do anything to you. But I get it swells me up. My body just doesn't react. So I have to have something to deal with that. So it doesn't mean that the flip of that would be the same thing for somebody that's have a brain problem. If your head not working good, and you find if you take drugs, the drugs help you out, then you can't just stop taking drugs. You have to stop it and go find some natural solutions to try to fix that void because there's a weakness in the system. Just a side note, but a very important note. I keep thinking about it, so I realize I'm going to have to say it over and over again just in case I'm talking to somebody here that's having that and they think, oh, I'm just going to stop taking. I'm going to pray. Pray, but pray and ask God, lead me to the herb. limited foods that will make my brain feel better, because you risk going back to drugs, because you find when you use the drugs it helps, but it's causing more problems. So you want to find something that will not cause problem but will feed your brain. You gotta feed your brain. I mean, I feed my brain with herbs for the brain on a regular basis, and I don't have that type of problem, you know. So if you have that problem, you should more feed your brain than me. So remember, as a bird by one and a swallow by flying, the curse causeless shall not come. So if curses come in your life, whatever it is, whatever curses come in your life is coming with, there's a cause. If you keep having a flu, you need to start investigating what's the cause, and you need to clean your diet. So cleansing can just simply mean, before you even clean your body, you just like get rid of the milk, get rid of the cheese, get rid of anything that causes mucus, get rid of the sodas and stuff like that that cause the drop in the immune system. Clean that out of your fridge. You can throw that in the garbage. If the garbage man is coming today, make him have it. Like you get paid for that. Make him take it out of you, take it from you. And then after that, now you start taking some herbs to clean your blood, to clean your body, and to get the gunk out, and to, give yourself a good scrub and clean out your colon and stuff like that. And then you start taking things that will build your immune system and will build up your body from all the damage you've received from all the milk and all the pus and blood that you've partaken in, milk and cheese. And then your body will be doing better. But you gotta cleanse and nourish. And then you find that the curse now will be lifted, and you'll get healing in your body. And then you realize, oh, the blessing doesn't come causeless either. The same thing with the curse, same thing with the blessing. You want healing, you need to do things for healing. You want cursing, you do the things for cursing, and you'll be cursed. You have a curse in your life, it doesn't come without a cause. And even if the curse is a neurological curse that you got from your parents, you can limit the result of it by doing some natural things or some spiritual, social things. But no, the curse didn't come without a cause. Whatever your curse is, you're doing something, or you continue the lifestyle your parents did. And that's the result. See if we can get a few more in here. Deuteronomy 23, verse 12 through 14. It says, thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whither you shall go forth abroad, and thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon, and it shall be when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, that thou dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of the camp to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that ye shall see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee. So notice here, the camp is holy. So holiness is always connected with cleanliness. It's just, if holiness is always connected with cleanliness, spiritual, physical cleanliness. Also, we find here that, Lord, there will be a difference between the pagan and the Jews. The Hebrew, when you would walk amongst, if they found this principle where you walk amongst their land, you would see filth everywhere. To me, filth is a testimony of where the people are at. People get silly about judging. It doesn't matter. That's just where they're at. If a person is throwing garbage out the window of their car, and they use the outdoor bathroom and they don't bury their feces, it's just that's where they're at. They're a mess in their head. And so they need this cleanliness principle. So I say, as we move towards the last days, when people reject the Bible and reject truth, and for fables, the uncleanness problem is getting out of control. You're throwing things out of your car and stuff like that. You polluting the environment, and you have to live in it. You're polluting your own self. And if you look at it, the Lord, as a way to dispose of feces and to dispose of it, how many times in the summertime, in the lakes where there are lake communities, because they don't have proper septic systems and stuff like that. Now people can't use the lake because the lake has too much E. coli, because there's so much feces contamination in the lake. And so now if you go swim, you're drinking that water as you swim, or you're gonna swallow some of that water. You swallow an E. coli, you get sick. A lot of these diseases are solvable by cleanliness. And when you look at it, you find that cleaning has to do with washing your clothes. You know, one of the principles Ellen G. White talks about is that when you wear your clothes and you're sweating it, you shouldn't wear it another day, because all that toxin that was removed from your body is going to get reabsorbed into your body. So I understand if you wear something and it didn't sweat in it and all that, and it's not on your body, you know, you probably could put it on a second day. But normally the principles is you wear a shirt or undergarment, you're sweating it, you have all that toxin that your body got rid of. You don't want to introduce it by putting it back on your body. You take it off, you put on something clean, and you wash the toxins away with water and soap, and you sterilize it if necessary, and you get it down the pipe system. That's what you do. So you clean. Now that cleanliness, the Bible associate with sanctifying sanctity, or I'll just read the text. Exodus 19 verse 10, as the text in front of me here. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. So let them wash their clothes. So notice here, sanctifying, cleansing has to do with holiness. When you be around filthy condition, you say, well, this is filthy. That's just what it is. So we'll look about a lot of the viruses that are going on, a lot of the problems that are happening in the world. That all has to do with cleanliness. Enterial virus, when people have foodborne illnesses, somebody eat some spoiled food and they get a stomach virus, you would say this is a part of unclean environment. Ebola is part of a lack of cleanliness, because it's how you deal with dead bodies and the contamination and sterilizing of the home and stuff like that. Tuberculosis, this is part of cleanliness. One of the ways that we treat tuberculosis patients, you get them in a rural area, in a high altitude, get them fresh air, very clean air away from the cities, and you find that the virus the cleaning up of the lungs will happen. The plague was associated with unclean environment and filth and feces and urine. With that, you have diseases will multiply, because bodily fluid communicate diseases. Things like chikungunya and various different type of malaria has to do with uncleanness, mosquito transmitting all kind of diseases. MRSA, which we have the flesh-eating bacteria, or the various different drug-resistant bacteria, staph infection bacteria. These are normally, you get them in places like public bathrooms, in gyms, in basic locker rooms, in hospitals, because wherever there's filth and you don't have a lot of cleanliness, and people walking in gyms in their bare feet and stuff like that, you're gonna have disease is going to multiply. We have to clean. They might not clean because they don't understand those principles, but you as a Christian, you as a present true Christian, you know you got to clean. You got to sterilize. You got to sanitize, because when you do this, you have a healthier life. Your diet must be hygienic. Your bed, your clothing that you wear, the place you sit, where you use your toilet, everything has to be sanitized. You'll find you get less sickness. The more the hygienic the diet, the more the hygienic the lifestyle, the healthier you'll be. So I pray that God may bless you in this effort, and you may share this with other people, because I say more and more people have lost concept of cleanliness, and they think drugs is going to fix the problem. And drugs, it should be your last line of defense, last option when you run out of all options. We're dealing with disease. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of this day. I thank you for the blessings of your word. And thank you, dear Lord, for the way that you teach us, dear Lord, how to clean our surroundings. But more than ever, dear Lord, you show us how to clean our hearts and our minds, that we might be presentable before thee. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for being with me here on the Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow, when we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.